Hello and welcome to my channel. I'm Jason White and this is my channel, Jason's Weird Reads. This is the place where I like to talk about books, mostly horror books, fantasy books, and some science fiction books as well. If that sounds like your bag, hit the subscribe button and we'll discuss some books. Alright, so I do not know if I was tagged for this video. This video was created a little while ago by Merce from Harpies in the Trees, and as I said, somebody may have tagged me in this video. I don't know. Honestly, I don't think I've seen this video go around too much, and it's also quite possible that I did this tag in the past and just don't remember it because, like I said, I think I'm headed towards some terrible places in the future here. This is, of course, the horror movie book tag, and as mentioned, it was created by Merce from Harpies in the Trees. So let's get on with the tag questions. Question number 1, The Zombie Apocalypse, a book you would save when civilization ends. So this is basically, what book would you pick off the shelf as you're running out the door because everything's blowing up? And I would have to go with this book right here. I'm just going to pull it out of the shelf because it's right here. I thought, why not go with an anthology? Because it has a variety of authors and you can just keep reading it over and over again. And besides, if there's like an actual apocalypse, you probably wouldn't have the time to read ever, but I'm going to go with the weird because this thing is massive. The pages, they're like double paged. See that? Double paged. And there's like 1,000 pages. So you almost have basically 2,000 pages in here. It's absolutely massive, and it covers weird horror fiction from all the way like in the 1800s to fairly modern times. And so this would be obviously, I think, what I would go with. It's my absolute favorite genre, the weird fiction genre. New weird fiction, all that, and this has a lot of favorite authors in it for me. So the weird. Ooh. I even have a shelf for my weird fiction. Alright, question number 2, The Vampire. A book you would stake through the heart. And I'm not too sure if this is because you hate the book so much or because it's so evil it needs to be staked through the heart. But I went with the former, a book I hate, and it's actually kind of appropriate because it has vampires in it. And that's The Passage by Justin Cronin. Now, I know a lot of people love this book, but I did not like this book at all. I felt that there were way too many errors in the book that just pulled me out. And one of those errors I'm going to mention that just pissed me off was they find a locker of M16s. They've been there for like 100 years, and they just start using them right away. There's no way you could do that. I've never shot an M16 assault rifle, but I do know something about them, and that's that they need to be cleaned constantly. They need to be cleaned and oiled constantly or they jam. You can't just pick it up and use it. That's from my understanding. And I don't think any gun after 100 years just sitting around in a locker would work. But the novel was filled with this type of stuff, and it annoyed me to no end. I hated it, and so we're staking it. Question number 3, The Haunted House, a book that still haunts you. This one was a little bit of a struggle for me. I had to look, but I ended up with a good one, I think, and that's Of Foster Homes and Flies by Chad Lutzke. And that's because this novel, or novella, is quite gross. And it's not meant to be. Well, it is meant to be. There's some gross scenes in there. The story is about a kid whose mom doesn't love him, and she basically abuses him. She's an alcoholic, a severe alcoholic, and she dies. And this happens all in the very beginning. He wakes up one morning and finds her dead on her chair. And when I say she doesn't love him, he even finds a freaking note in her purse, stating to someone how much she despises her own son. And that alone haunts me, because how could you do that? And also, there's a scene in there when he's trying to cover up the smell of his mom's rotting corpse, because first of all, he's like 12 years old. He doesn't know what to do. He knows he should call the cops, but there is a spelling bee coming up soon, and it's the only thing that gives him happiness, and so he just wants to make it to the spelling bee in a couple of days, at the end of the week or something like that. And so he's trying hard to cover up the stench, and I was eating my lunch at work while reading this part, or listening to it, because I listened to it on audiobook. And yeah, it was not easy. That part still haunts me when I'm trying to eat. So thanks, Chad, for that.
Thank you.
All right. Question number 4, the psychological thriller, and that's a book with a twist you did not see coming. And I went with Pines by Blake Crouch because holy shit, this book is full of twists and turns, and you have no freaking idea that they're coming. You can't figure this shit out because they just keep coming. Every second page there's a new fucking twist. But I love, it's one hell of a roller coaster ride. That book will burn you out. All right, question number 5, The Creepy Doll, a book that seems innocent but isn't. So I had to struggle with this one again. I came up with a kind of a strange answer, honestly. I went with Our Doris by Charles Heathcote. And the reason why I went with this is because it's a very lighthearted book. But it does deal with some very dark themes that sort of run in like an undercurrent below the main sort of lightheartedness of the story. And those themes are alcoholism and quite possibly, if not indefinitely, spousal abuse. So yeah, that's my answer. I mean, it's all very lighthearted, but it's very dark at the same time. Okay, moving on. Number 6, The Monster. A book you could barely tackle or defeat. There's not, I do have a fear of large books, and that's why I'm always reading large books, because I need to know why they're so big. But one book, I decided to cheat on this answer because I'm currently reading a series full of very thick books. The thinnest one is the first one, and it's like 600, 700 pages. Let that sink in. And the series is 10 books long. The last book is like over 1,200 pages. It's very, very, very thick series. And of course, I'm talking about the Malazan Book of the Fallen. I've tried reading this before, and it's the size of the books that made me stop reading the series, because you finish one big chunker, and you finish one big chunker, and you're looking at the next one, and it's fucking huge too. So, but I'm doing it this time, just like with the Wheel of Time. I tackled that. I'm gonna tackle this. Question number 7. The Comedy Horror, a book with mixed genres that worked or didn't. I went with one that worked very well in my opinion, and that's The Only Good Indians by Stephen Graham Jones. Now, of course, this book is not a comedy by any means. There's probably, I believe there's some funny parts here and there, but but it's not a comedy. It's not intended to be a comedy anyway. But that's not the genre it mixes with. It's definitely a horror story, very much a horror story, a bit of a slasher story. But there's also this contemporary literary themes and style of writing that all clash together that shouldn't work, but does work. And that's one reason why I love this book. It's like digging your teeth into something, and yet it's not very thick. It's rather thin. It's only about 300 pages, and yet there's so much going on in it. Stylistically and plot-wise, and with all the themes. It's an incredible book. It's a fucking masterpiece. Question number 8. The Cliched Teen Horror, a book you found super cliched or stereotypical. And this one was very, very easy to come up with. I read this last summer with Bex from Out of the Bex. I did this on Instagram with some of her friends over there. And that is Meg by Steve Alton. And this is one book, and this is a video I need to do. I believe that the movie was actually better than the book. The book itself wasn't terrible, but oh my god. The movie actually kind of took all the cliched stuff and made it fun and interesting, where the book, it was just like, it wasn't terrible, but I didn't love it. And maybe I should have loved it, but the movie was actually way more entertaining in a strange way that I'm having trouble articulating right now. Alright, question number 9. The Demonic Possession. A book so gripping you needed an exorcist to escape it. I'm going to go with the collected works, or the complete fiction of H.P. Lovecraft. I'm going with this because about 10 years ago, I think it was in 2011, I decided I was going to read all of H.P. Lovecraft's short fiction, and I pretty much did. I think there's one or two I didn't get to. And I also, after reading a story, I would go and listen to the corresponding podcast episode by the H.P. Lovecraft Literary Podcast. And they covered every one of H.P. Lovecraft's stories. And it was just so much fun to read a short story and then go sort of behind the scenes of that story. And the hosts would discuss. Sometimes they were disgusted because of how racist H.P. Lovecraft could be in some of his short stories. There's only like 2, maybe 3 short stories where his racism really came out. But man, they would get mad at him. And, so would I. It's just fucking despicable. You cannot take away what H.P. Lovecraft has done for the genre of horror and how good these stories are. He's long dead. And so, I'm kind of forgiving because he died like almost 100 years ago. And it was a different time. He had some extraordinary circumstances upon which he lived. And by the end of his life, he was changing his point of view. So maybe there's room for forgiveness. I don't know. Is there compassion? Can you use compassion in his case? I don't know. But I can, because he's dead and been dead for a very long time, I can read his short stories and still enjoy them. If he was alive today and writing this racist, well, like I said, some of those stories, there's only like 2 or 3, and I'll never read them again, that have racist content. There's one poem that's just absolutely awful, and like I said, I'll never read that shit again. But his main stories, they're quite good, and they influenced so much of what we consume today. And I was possessed while on my Lovecraft journey, and to be honest with you, I was unaware of his racism until I was about halfway through my H.P. Lovecraft journey, and it was quite the disappointment, and I didn't know if I should continue reading him or not because it bothered me. But then, I came to, well, yeah, that's for another topic, I think, for another video. Alright, question number 10. The science fiction. A precious book you would permanently sacrifice to aliens for the good of mankind. So, a precious book meaning that you love this book, but you're gonna give it to the alien gods in order to save mankind. I went with It by Stephen King. I absolutely love it, and I've read it 2 or 3 times. I think I'm done with it, and I've seen the movies countless times. Honestly, I think I'm done with the story. Even though I love it and I have fond memories of reading it, and I have fond memories of watching the movies, I can give this story away now. I can separate myself in order to save mankind. This I can do it. I swear to you, I can do it. Do you believe? I hope you believe me. Okay. So that is my answers to this awesome little tag. I just kind of accidentally ran across it. I think it was Alicia Reed's did it last October, and for some reason I never watched that video, but I watched it recently and it was awesome, and I was like, I don't remember this tag, and so I was also like, I gotta do this tag. So you know what, I'm gonna tag some people here because I think it would be kind of fun to see what other people might do with this tag. As I said, I don't know who's done this tag. I don't remember it very well at all. So I'm going to choose Dane from Dane Reed, Alex from The Bookish Report, I'm tagging you, Mindy from Mindy's Book Journey. I hope you haven't done this. You do a lot of tags, Mindy, so if you have done it, just tell me you've done it in the comments and I'll go look for it. Richard from Are You Into Horror? And John from Books of Blood. You're all tagged. Alright. Thank you for watching, and keep being safe, keep being creative, and I'll catch you guys in the next bookish video.